Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming in a new Baldurs Gate video. Today we're covering some of the best items you can find in Act 1. I mean absolutely insane pieces of gear. We're not just talking about powerful greens, but a variety of blues. But also the insane purple gear that not only unlocks entirely new moves and spells for you to use while you're equipping this gear, but ridiculous passives like attackers cannot land critical hits on the wearer. Be warned, before I get into this, I'm going to be covering a bunch of main areas in Act 1, meaning I need to tell you about them to guide you to the items. So if that bothers you, be warned, but I will order this list in terms of progression. So the last few items are going to be the hardest, furthest into Act 1 stuff compared to the first few items that should be easy. With all that said though, let's get into it. We'll begin with the easiest thing on the list, which is actually the spear on my back. This is the Vision of the Absolute, which is a spear, comes with Absolute Knight, allowing you to blind targets that fail a dexterity saving throw and deal additional piercing damage to certain creatures that sport multiple sets of eyes. From the center of the wilderness you have the Blighted Village, and if you cross over the bridge and head north to this exact point here, you'll find a couple of people and a body. Basically you have a conversation with them, and whether you fight them or you end up working with them, you'll get a sort of spear shaft, a broken spear from the body of the dwarf. We can then take that and head downhill and across the water into the cave, which is an owlbear cave where that spear was broken. By heading to the main area of the actual cave, you'll meet the owlbear, which has the end of the spear lodged in its head. There are a few ways to deal with this scenario, but ultimately I defeated the bear and then looted it for the spear head. At this point, you can take the two pieces, the spear shaft and the head, and right click and combine to put the spear back together and get yourself the Spear of the Absolutist. It's got 4 to 9 damage, it's versatile, so you can equip it in one hand and still keep your shield for the extra AC that provides, and is a very decent green weapon to get in the early days. Next up, we have the Jolt setup, which is pretty cool. Basically, you have a pair of boots and a weapon that both have the same sort of electric effect. Take the bow here, the Jolt shooter. When the wielder deals damage with this weapon, they gain 2 lightning charges. And when you gain 5 charges, they're consumed for a sort of lightning damage attack. Otherwise, you just have a +1 to attack rolls and deal 1 lightning damage, which is not bad. But when you combine that with the Speedy Light Feet boots, which whenever you dash or takes a similar action during combat, you gain 3 lightning charges and get +1 to your athletics. So through the boots, dash, and actually just using the bow, you will get 5 charges regularly and then get that extra 1 to 8 lightning damage on your attacks, which is awesome. To get the Jolt weapon, you actually have a choice of 3, not just the bow, by coming here to Welkeen's Rest, which is at the northern western point of the wilderness. By coming here, you'll find a bunch of people trying to break in to save someone who's stuck in the building, help them break in, you go through, go upstairs, help them save their leader and leave the building, and then just like that, after a conversation, you'll be rewarded with a choice of 3 different weapons, all with this kind of Jolt effect. Pick whatever works best for you and your party, of course, and then it's time to combine it with the Speedy Light Feet. You can find these early and easy as well in the Blighted Village by heading northwest to the windmill. Around the back there is a trap door. If you go down there, you'll find a chest in a cellar which has the boots within. There is a downside to the boots though, in that they are medium armor, which prevents some actions with, say, a light armored user such as Asterion, but considering a rogue has a bonus action cunning action dash, it is pretty incredible on a rogue all the same. Next on the list we come to the Putrid Bog, or, well, it's kind of a nice swamp before the truth is revealed. South of the Blighted Village you will find the swamp and the waypoint of the Riverside Tea House, which is right here. By entering you'll meet the hag, who has seemingly captured this poor lady. If you press her and fight her, she'll escape through her illusionary wall, which is the fireplace, and you can follow her through that, and by making use of the masks you can go through more illusionary walls to catch up with the hag down in her true cave lair. The hag itself is a fun fight, and by defeating her you'll be able to go into a reward room at the back behind her. As you can see, there's a yellow or legendary quality staff just laying there, the Staff of Crones, which has between 0 and 7 damage as a sort of melee weapon, but it's more about being a staff. It provides you with the Ray of Sickness, a level 1 necromancy skill, which you can use whenever you've done a short rest. 2 to 16 damage of poison damage is awesome for 2 turns, especially when you combine it with something like the Poisoner's Robe, which when the wearer casts a spell that deals poison damage, it deals extra poison damage. So the synergy between these 2 pieces is actually really good. As a legendary style weapon, it's pretty easy to get then, isn't it? Next up, we have the glaive that is on my paladin's back right now. This is Sorrow, a 5 to 14 damage two-handed glaive, which has the incredible Sorrowful Lash bonus action. What this lash does is it also pulls enemies towards you, meaning you pull them to whoever's actually using the weapon. It does mean you get 2 attacks every turn with a main hand attack and a bonus attack, which makes it a very good weapon indeed. This is a reward for a main quest line, however, so it takes a little bit more effort. I'm standing here where it begins in the Emerald Grove of the Druids. By coming here and speaking with the leader, you can find out that Halsin has been captured, and that means you need to travel to the Goblin camp to free him. By going into the Goblin camp and finding him at the northeastern point in sort of the prison cells, transformed into a bear, you can help him defeat the goblins that have captured him. From there, unfortunately, Halsin won't leave until you defeat the 3 leaders of the Goblin camp, which is a priestess, a drow, and a hobgoblin. This is one of the later things you'll want to do in Act 1 because it's quite the challenge, but remember that Halsin can come with you, so you can have a 5-person party while doing this, which really helps. By returning to the Grove, you can come back to the person that gives you the quest to actually save Halsin, which is Wrath, and he'll give you the reward promised. You'll need to head into the back room and into the secret room for the Druid's chamber, where you'll have been given a pedestal to put into this to activate the wolf statue, which then unlocks the spiral stairs, which then reveals the hidden vault where you find Sorrow on this table. Sorrow is well worth the effort though, because again, especially early days, getting 2 attacks on, say, a class that normally wouldn't be able to double attack every turn can be incredible. Next up, we have the Speedy Boots, which allows you to dash quite consistently in combat, and all a pair of really useful boots. However, they will require you to come here and meet Thulla and basically take them off her or be given as a reward. Thulla is at the Underdark towards the northern point of the Mushroom Colony, on the main mushroom at the top. There are various ways to get to the Underdark. The safest way is probably through the outpost itself, which you'll enter via the Goblin camp behind the priestess's main room. There's a hidden room behind that with a moon-based puzzle, and as you progress through there, you can find a ladder that takes you down to the Underdark and this outpost with the waypoint. From here, make your way to the colony and find Thulla. She'll just give you the boots if you promise to save her friends. While we're here, another thing in the Underdark has got to be the Spectator Eyes Amulet, which is our first purple to talk about. This provides the necromancy spell Ray of Fear, which will frighten your target for 2 turns. And Wounding Ray, which does 2 to 16 damage, necrotic damage, and even if they save the roll, they still take half damage. They're pretty potent spells, obviously, level 3 necromancy spells, and you can cast each of them for an action and a long rest cooldown. To get them, again, you want to go to the outpost, and you'll leave on the left side, heading southwest to the platform where you can see a bunch of stone people. Obviously, something weird is going on here, and it turns out, yes, a spectator is here, and it turned everyone to stone. It will begin immediately trying to wake them all up and absolutely crushing your party, so try to position your party like I did, using invisibility and teleports to prepare for the fight before it even begins. Be warned that the spectator is level 5 and can be a bit of a challenge, but of course, like anything, is definitely doable. And upon defeat, you can just loot the amulet, which is as easy as that. And finally, we have our last few items that come from the same area, the Grymforge, but I'm not actually standing in the Grymforge, I'm standing where you'll enter it. This is the Underdark Beach in the middle of the Underdark, and at the bottom left you can see there's actually a boat on the map, and by interacting with that and stealing the boat, you can make your way to the Grymforge. Or you can interact with the NPCs here and try to be friendly with them, such as get Cole here, who, you know, with the Speedy Boots we found earlier, turns out he's looking for those. If you promise to take those to the person he works for, you can just take the boat with no problem, no combat needed. From here, you've now accessed the Grymforge, and there's a bunch of awesome things here. Let's start with the Invisibility Generating Ring, this fetish, which is absolutely insane. It quite literally gives you an illusionary spell that you can use once per long rest, where you have 10 turns of true invisibility. Pretty incredible as long as you can maintain the concentration to do so. And you can get it right here at the forge where you enter. So off the boat, just cross to the other side, and here you'll find a bunch of gnome bodies and some dwarves that are basically getting rid of them, kicking them off the side. Through conversation or sleight of hand, you can trick them into letting you check the bodies, and on the body, you will find the ring with a good enough roll. This can be pretty hard though, so a cool trick you can do is progress the story here in the Grymforge and come back to this location later. The dwarves will be gone, and you can just loot the gnome with no problem and just take the ring. And just like that, you'll have an invisibility every long rest for someone, which is pretty incredible. Next up, we have another item that's easy to get here in the Grymforge and is also kind of insane. These boots, the legendary Disintegrating Night Walkers, which means you cannot be webbed or entangled or ensnared or slip-on grease or ice while these are equipped, which is pretty insane on its own. But then, as you can see, it gets the Misty Step conjuration spell on a short rest bonus action. Yes, so someone that can't normally Misty Step can indeed Misty Step, and it's only going to cost a short rest and a bonus action if it actually was used in combat, which is obviously insane. And you get them right here. From there, the true soul of the Absolute, you literally can just loot him and take them. It's that easy. Except when you arrive here, there's a bunch of rocks and people trying to save the people within. Inside the poisonous room is Nair desperately calling out for help and a bunch of other gnomes that are stuck. Your task then is to get to Nair and save them. What happens is you speak to the gnomes and they say, hey, there's another gnome that's escaped that has blast powder that you can use to get rid of the rocks. If I show my map, you can see how she's actually all the way to the northeast over here, Philomene, and by speaking with her, you can convince her to give you something to help clear the rocks. And after I did that, the time had progressed in Grymforge. When I came back here, Nair was now out of the room but dead and lootable, so I could just straight up take the boots. But also, the door was broken and everyone was gone. So something spooky's happened here. I can't exactly explain it, but that's how it happened for me, and that's how I got the boots. But I'm certain there's going to be many ways that you can save Nair and potentially get those boots for yourself off of him. Alright, second to last, it's time for us to talk about the incredible purple armor, the adamantine splint armor, and the adamantine scale armor. So we have a heavy armor set and we have a medium armor set. It's magical plate, so it reduces all incoming damage by 1 on the scale armor, whereas the splint armor is reduced by 2. Then it has the passive intense adamantine backlash, so when a melee attack hits you, the attacker is sent reeling for 3 turns, meaning they have a -1 penalty to attack rolls for every turn remaining for 3 turns. Downside is we have disadvantage on stealth checks. That's just because of the heavy armor. And then again, attackers can't land critical hits on the wearer flat out. That's insane. But these aren't the only things you can get. There are other adamantine things you can craft out of mithril, such as this shield, such as this hammer. But these are blue compared to the incredible purple effects. And from all my exploration, I've only been able to find 2 mithril, which means you can only craft 2 things. And I would recommend you craft the armor, since it is indeed so insane if you have someone in your party that can make use of both medium armor and heavy armor. How do you make these equipment pieces though? Well, you're going to need to find molds. As you can see, this is a mace mold, so that's what you're going to need to make the mace. You're going to need to find the armor molds as well. And by entering the actual ancient forge itself, you will start to find these molds everywhere, on tables, on the floor, just all over the place. I'm certain I've not found all of them at this point, so make sure you explore this area with an eye for those molds. By coming over here to the southwestern side, you'll find a mithril ore you can go mine, but it'll require blunt damage, so maybe unequip your weapon and punch it if you have to. Then we'll head down the main stairwell towards the main forge itself. You'll need to do a bit of jumping, so be careful about the height, and be aware there's another mithril deposit somewhere over here for you to mine again. By making your way down to the forge, this is where you're going to be doing the crafting. Take the mold chamber and interact with it by using the lever next to it. That will open it up, and then you can put a mold of your choice in. Then interact with the middle, the crucible, to put in a mithril ore. Head over to the lever on the outer platform and pull it, which will slam down and actually lower the whole platform. This is where I need to warn you that there's a major boss fight coming up if you want to do this, and that boss is Grym, a big mech that is level 8, the protector of the forge with 300 health. He's also ultra resistant to everything except blunt damage, so if you have blunt weapons, that can be incredible. Activate this fight by using the lava valve, which will spawn in Grym. I'm going to now tell you how to beat Grym, so if you don't want to hear that, just skip forward like 30 seconds. But basically, you can either fight him normally by using blunt weapons or whatever, or you can literally drag Grym into the crucible, tricking him into standing in the middle and then pulling the lever to slam the hammer down, the forge down, and crush him. Using whatever method you want, defeat Grym, and through this process, the actual mold chamber should be finished, and you'll have whatever you've made in there. To make the second item out of the second mithril ore, you just interact with the mold chamber like before, opening it with a lever, putting in a mold, putting in another mithril in the crucible itself, pulling the lever to lower the platform, activating the lava, pulling the lever again to activate the crucible, and then you'll have the second thing you want it to make. Again, I would recommend the armor as it is insane, but if you don't have people that can wear, say, heavy plate or whatever, then a weapon or something is perfectly fine. Finally, the last item I want to make you aware of in this list video is the Sentient Amulet, which as a blue gives you the Shatter level 2 evocation spell, which is incredible, and She Restoration, sort of monk class abilities. There is a downside though, it is a sentient amulet, so you're gonna have to interact with it, and by basically convincing it that you're able to deal with its shenanigans of trying to make you laugh, you can get the benefits of this amulet. This is also in the Forge, which is why I've waited until last. It's on the southwestern platform that you can just jump over to, and by coming over here, you'll have a pool of lava, and you'll have to deal with a lava elemental. It regens health while standing in lava, so you'll want to drag it out of the lava before you defeat it. But on the table, on the main platform in the chest, is that amulet that you can pick up, and it truly is as easy as that. But again, be warned, you will need to convince the amulet that you're worthy, that you can handle the laughs, and it basically requests that you take it to Baldur's Gate. But in the meantime, you can wear and use this amulet, which can be very useful. So there you have it. Those are my 10 items that I think you absolutely want in Act 1. A bunch of really powerful things, and hopefully ordered in a way that's useful to you for whatever point in Act 1 you're actually at yourself. There are many more items in Act 1 and the rest of the game that are incredible, so we might come back and do more of these if you guys want to see it. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching, see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.